Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's 100% Metroid Fusion. In the last part, we recovered the station's power after it was lost for a decent chunk of time. We also got the plasma beam back from Super Metroid, which is really powerful. It actually does penetrate enemies, and because of that, it can do a lot of damage because that means it'll actually be hitting enemies more than once, especially with charge shots, and it's just so beautiful. Either way, now, since we have that entire fiasco solved, let's get back to Adam. But if I recall, there's also a few items we're going to be grabbing along the way because there's some more items we can grab in the area in general, now that we have space jump and power bombs. And I could, like I said before, go get that one missile tank. It wasn't on my checklist, but I didn't know it was on there in time. It was basically at the very end of the game, so it sucks to suck there. If we pass by the area that it's at again, though, I will mention where it is, because you can get it at this point. You could even get it after beating the Zazabi earlier. And we're actually back in the main room, and you could very well head back, but to get the items I want to get, I have to head back towards where Zazabi was to begin with. Sector 2 is actually one of the bigger areas in the game in terms of items to get, because you're constantly coming back here in the post-game if you didn't get everything. But there is this room which has 2 power bombs in it, and there's some of the more annoying ones to get in the game, because you need to freeze these rippers in very specific locations in order to get over to the first one. If you screw up, well, you can see what happens. This can take a while, and honestly, I don't like these ones because they are pretty positioning dependent, and if you screw it up, that's just a good amount of time wasted. Oh, damn it. There are 2 items in here, as you can tell by looking at the map, though, and the other one is actually just below the first one. You need to stand up where the power bomb block is in order to get it. I believe the other room that I didn't get the item in is actually directly below me, so yeah, it is. Go and get that now, because this is like the last opportunity you'll have that will be back here for a convenient time until not post-game, end-game. There is no post-game in Metroid Fusion, technically. Well, technically there actually is, because I'll mention this again when it becomes more relevant. But after you beat the game, you can load up your save file at the last save point you were at, which is hopefully right before the final boss. And when you do that, you're actually given free reign of the station once again, but you're also given a checklist, both for the overall station and each individual area of every item that's in it. Namely, like, it'll be like X missiles out of 18, X energy tanks out of like 6, stuff like that. And that's actually very useful, and it'll actually tell you when you've completed an area's amount of items. Zero Mission does that as well for after you beat the final boss, but that's not going to be useful for me because I'm going through these games in one run. Either way, let's see what Adam has for us.
What? You've restored plasma beam functionality? Most unexpected. Even so, continue to avoid the SAX. It too may be stronger, and you still lack a few abilities crucial to survival. Wait a second. More trouble, hold on. I've isolated the cause. There's been an explosion in the ARC data room. Samus, go to Sector 5. Is your objective clear?
Yeah.
The damage is staggering. Find out what's causing it.
Well, we're heading back to Sector 5 once again. Like I said, it is the sector you go to the most in the storyline. Odd, because you wouldn't think it would be the ice level. By the way, I love this song here. It plays frequently throughout the game, but it's just a really good theme for tension. I say it again, I'll say it once, and I'll say it again. I think this game does really good on atmosphere and tension, but it lacks in some of the catchy department for themes, you know? Outside of maybe 2 or 3 examples. What you got, Adam?
It's gotten worse. The damage seems to have been caused by a creature captured by the researchers, who named it the Nightmare. Apparently, it was a biomechanical organism designed for military applications. It possesses uncommon power and can manipulate gravity. We must assume that it's become an X-host. We have no choice. We must find it and defeat it. I can't confirm the location. Is your objective clear?
As clear as it can be.
This thing is out of control. Hurry before it destroys the entire station.
And once again, we are given a bit more of free reign over where to go. You are obviously supposed to go towards where the nightmare is, and once you realize where it is, it's actually, again, a pretty linear pathway. But you could still technically access some other areas in Sector 5 as far as I can recall. But we're gonna focus mainly on the main plot. Although, a little shortcut you could do. Charge up a speed booster after going into these doorways. And the moment you exit this one, use a Shinespark to the right, you'll be boosted right into the path you need to go into. But I need to deal with some items. This is what I meant, by the way, the first time we came here to Sector 5. When I got this missile tank over here, it was actually faster, technically, to wait until now to get it because you'll be speed boosting through it anyway. Because we need to use a Shinespark into this door. And hey, power bomb. So yeah, it would have been faster to wait until then, but like I said many times at this point, my main goal with this is to get every item as soon as I can. Which, for the most part, actually does get me decent along the speed charts for this game, at least in terms of casual playthroughs. But it is technically faster if you're like planning out a 100% run for yourself that goes for the best ending image. But yeah, that's Shinespark I was talking about. It would get you through this room, through the next room even. And I believe you would finally crash in the room after this next one. But first, let's head up here. We have something interesting here. This is the first one of these we've seen. These are intersector tunnels. Every sector has, I believe, at least 2 of these, and they lead between each of the sectors. You can actually go around in a complete circle, I believe. And those will come in handy towards endgame for the cleanup because of a certain stipulation that the endgame has. But first I'm going to go over here and get another power bomb that's over here first. Even though I'm being very slow about getting this. In fact, I'm doing this the entirely wrong way. What you want to do is lay a power bomb towards the ceiling here so you can actually open up all the pathways you need to, and then just go up here and hit the little switches. Mind you, it's still very easy to get power bomb no matter what, but it's potential time saved. Also, I'm very glad they changed the sound effect for the power bomb in Zero Mission. Because as much as I love this game's sound font, actually, some of those sounds really are irritating. But we're actually going to be going into that intersector tunnel for a moment because there actually is a power-up for us in there. Only 2 of these actually have power-ups in them. This is one of them. Because as we lay that power bomb, hey, there it is. And in terms of where we are in Sector 3 right now, we're right below where that energy tank was that I got earlier. That's what I meant by what I said earlier in that it's actually faster for you to go get that missile energy tank later on. Okay, yeah, this data room is completely screwed up. Well, yeah, this is the room you would crash in, by the way, with the Shinespark. Let's head along this pathway and see what we can find. Hold left here. Hold left and just fire your missiles diagonally down, because that'll allow you to climb into this thing and get this energy tank a bit earlier than you're intended to. Though I have to question where the hell the water went. Also, do not use a power bomb in here to locate the crumble blocks. Why? There is one of those little bomb platforms right there that would block you off from the energy tank, causing you to have to exit and re-enter the room. Just a bit of time saving there. And in here we get one of my favorite ideas in the game. We kill one of these things, and the X-Parasites fuse with the space pirates to make some sort of weird space pirate mermaid. I love that concept of combining genetic information like that, because that's what the X-Parasites are basically doing. That's really cool, and I wish the game did it more. Sure, there are times where X-Parasites will fuse with other monsters just to make them bigger or more powerful, but we rarely ever see something like this. Mind you, I guess that's just the limitation of the Game Boy Advance, because say if this was like a Metroid Prime-esque title, we'd probably be seeing a bit more of that just because they'd have more access with models and more memory space. Either way, we want to go into here because there's another power bomb for us. It's right here. Yeah, if you can't tell, we're going to be collecting a lot of power bombs because that's most of what the collectibles are left at this point, because there's only 6 more energy tanks. And I think at this point, less than 15 missile tanks left. Speaking of power bombs, another one right here. And I'm going to be using it, but you don't need to. This room right here is a recharge station. And I recommend doing it just so you have full stock of missiles for something that's coming up. Because the upcoming boss is actually kind of tricky. But actually, I'd probably say it's the hardest boss in the game, at least on your first playthrough. I didn't need to place that. I don't know why I did. Don't go through the top door. That's a dead end at this point. Because it just leads into a little dead end area in general. Hi, Ghidorah X. Gonna need you to not do that. Thank you. I've had very good luck with them so far, actually. I'm surprised by that. Energy tank right there, but do not go right towards it because that is a trap. You have to go above it. So let's head down. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our boss fight. It's against Nightmare, if you can't tell. And Nightmare is that shadow we've been seeing in the background of Sector 5 this entire time. And as Adam said, Nightmare uses gravity against us. Because of that, in the first phase at least, missiles are going to be useless. The best way to damage Nightmare, which you need to aim at this little gravity controller here, is to aim charge shots straight up at it because it damages multiple times. You can tell how much HP Nightmare has left based off how much he's leaking. There's a lot of slowdown in this part no matter what. Don't worry, that's not your video or the recording. It's the game itself actually doing that. And when it's flashing like that, get on the ladder and prepare to aim towards the right at Nightmare's face, which is our next damage point. At this point, I believe missiles are better than charge beam just because I think the charge beam will only hit once, maybe twice. You can probably get more damage in just with the missiles. Every now and then, Nightmare will go around in a circle a few times just to try and hit you. At which point he'll reset and try to come towards you again, just repeat the missile strategy. At this point you can tell how close Nightmare is to being killed based off how melted his face is. It's actually a pretty gruesome way to kill a boss fight. Overall though, this boss fight, it's actually very tricky for newcomers, but nowadays, it's one of the easier bosses in the game for me, at least in terms of pattern recognition. It does hurt, because I just did about 40 damage there I believe, but I have more than enough health at this point. Once it becomes a Corax, you know what to do. Though if you haven't figured it out by now, Coraxes do gain more HP the farther the game goes on. Honestly, it's a bit redundant because why do that when it's the same thing over and over again, but I'm not going to complain too much about that. But the interesting thing is, for beating it, we are going to get its gravity manipulation ability, but not in the way you might figure. Anyone from Super Metroid can figure out, we're going to get the gravity suit. So now we can move freely in water, and lava will no longer damage us. We can now walk through it like it's water itself. And thank God we can finally get rid of that garish color scheme. Now we're a cool purple, green, and blue. I like this one. I like this color scheme a lot. And we actually need to go back into this room because we need to use the distance that it has in order to build up a speed booster in order to escape this area. There's also a weird idiosyncrasy with one of the other items we'll be getting later on involving the gravity suit, in that when we get that later ability, it even says this in the manual, we can't use it in water until we get the gravity suits. However, you can only ever get that item after getting the gravity suit, so that's a bit of a curiosity. We need to build up another speed boost here in order to actually escape this area, because at this point in Sector 4, we're actually trapped below crumble blocks, so we need to use a speed booster to escape this sector in general, but we need to charge up a Shinespark and go up here for another power bomb tank. So you might be wondering, what sector are we going to boost into if we're escaping this sector? Well, if you pay attention to some numbers here, we're in Sector 4. And there's something very specific you can do here. I'll link it in the description below, because I've only been able to do it once. There is a very specific speed booster Shinespark chain you can do that will allow you to escape this area of Sector 4 prematurely. Doing so gets you a special secret conversation from Adam and that guy he was talking to when Samus wasn't in the room in like part 4 or 5, I think it was. Basically saying, hey, you did that, that's cool, now go back, because you need to go back there to get an item. I've only done it once because it is annoyingly specific, but it's cool that they programmed that. You do need to go through this area of Sector 4 all the same, though, because it's for story purposes. Also, powerbomb tank right there. I love that they did that. I kind of wish games did secrets like that more, where if you can figure something out, you can boost it through an entire area. But, it's minor at the same time. Also, we need to use a power bomb in this room, because if you actually try to go back towards down where the bottom left is, you won't be able to go in that area otherwise, because there's a red hatch blocking your way. In fact, if you try to progress towards the east of me right now, you can't past a certain point because there is, yet again, a red hatch. So, in order to progress, even though we don't have permission from Adam, we need to open up level 4 locks. And the security room for that is still unmarked. However, there's only so many options you can go to in this area, so it should be fairly easy to find. By the way, this is one of the only other tracks in the game I really, really like, because it's just a really nice water piece. Nice and calming. I am more of a fan of the Metroid soundtracks that are on the, like, full-out kick-ass side, like, for me, Prime 1, Zero Mission, and technically Pinball. But I have to appreciate the atmospheric tracks that the series has as well. And here's the security room. Yeah, there's no way otherwise to get through this area because you need to do that, because the upper area is completely blocked off and we can't head through the right unless we do this. So, sorry, Adam. Hope you won't be too pissed at us. But red hatches are now active. We now have access to technically the entire station. I say technically because there's one area we can't access until later on, but that's just due to power-up stuff. Also, I'm being a dumbass here. I am accidentally skipping over an item for about 20 seconds. Because I immediately remembered, oh wait, gotta go back. If you go through here as a morph ball, we can find a bit of a hidden chain room. I screw up here for a bit though. What we have to do is, and this is me being greedy with X-Parasites because I want more health, we have to let those X-Parasites live and move over to that room on the top right there, where they will reform into 2 more of those golden crabs we saw earlier. This is me screwing up because I rarely ever go for the energy tank this leads to, because I already have usually more than enough by this point. I think I went for this energy tank in my original playthroughs, but that's just because, why the hell not, you know? The way you have to do this, though, place down a power bomb and just let the X-Parasites roam free. At which point, now I can actually do stuff. Also, interesting little fact, these things are unharmed by power bombs. And beams, the only thing that can destroy them for some reason is missiles. I don't get why. Either way, our ultimate goal here, as I mentioned earlier, is an energy tank, and it's in the top right block. So, let's grab that and get the hell back to progression, shall we? I will tell you right now, I recommend getting every item in here on your first playthrough, because going back here is not very time conservative, and honestly, this area is annoying enough to the point where it's not worth doing in the first place anyway. Mind you, as I've stated before, 100% infusion is not the way to really play the game in my eyes, because this is a better game for speed running, for my playstyle at least. Same with Zero Mission, but that's just because Zero Mission's a very speed run friendly game, because they put shortcuts in everywhere for people who are speed running. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 9 we'll be continuing in the lower half of Sector 4, hopefully making our way back to the navigation room in the process. See you guys then.